Section 1. The unusual offer. I never thought a quiet Tuesday night could turn into the most confusing moment of my life. The day had been ordinary. I came home from work, kicked off my shoes, and sank into the couch while my boyfriend, Daniel, sat across the room scrolling on his phone. The soft hum of the ceiling fan filled the silence between us. We had been together for almost 2 years, and though things weren't bad, they weren't as exciting as they used to be. Still, I thought I knew him well enough to predict what he'd say or do next. I was wrong. Without looking up from his phone, he said, "If I gave you $100, would you spend one night doing exactly what I ask?" I blinked, unsure if I'd heard correctly. "What do you mean, exactly what you ask?" He finally looked at me, a small smirk pulling at the corner of his lips. "Just one night. You follow my instructions. No questions." I laughed nervously, waiting for him to chuckle too, but he didn't. His eyes were steady, searching mine, as if he was waiting for a real answer. That's when I realized he was serious. "Daniel, why are you making it sound so mysterious? Is this some weird joke?" I asked, leaning forward. "It's not a joke," he replied, voice low but calm. "It's just something I want to try. And I'll make it worth your while." He slid his wallet out of his back pocket and pulled out a crisp $100 bill, placing it on the coffee table between us. I stared at it. $100 wasn't life-changing money, but the way he presented it, like a contract-like payment, made my stomach twist. I could feel the air in the room shift, heavier now, charged with something unspoken. "What exactly do you want me to do?" I asked again. He leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "If I told you, it would ruin the point. You just have to trust me." Trust. The word echoed in my head. We had built our relationship on that word, but suddenly it felt fragile, as if one wrong move could shatter it. Part of me wanted to refuse immediately, to throw the money back at him and demand an explanation. But another part, a quieter, more dangerous part, was curious. What could possibly be so important, so unusual, that he had to pay me for it? I looked at him, the man I loved, the man who sometimes still felt like a stranger. His eyes didn't waver. "All right," I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'll do it." A faint smile crossed his face. "Good. You won't regret it." But as I sat there staring at the $100 bill, a cold shiver ran down my spine. Somehow, I knew this night would change everything. Section 2. The night begins. The next evening felt different before it even started. Daniel was quiet all day, answering my questions with short phrases, avoiding his usual teasing or affectionate touches. By the time the sun began to set, the air in our apartment felt heavier, like it was holding its breath. I stood in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection. I didn't know what to wear. I didn't even know where we were going. I settled on a simple black dress, nothing too fancy, but enough to feel presentable. My hands shook slightly as I applied lipstick, a shade I hadn't worn in months. From the living room I heard him call out, "You ready?" When I stepped out, he was waiting by the door, keys in hand. He didn't comment on my dress or my makeup, didn't even smile. Just opened the door and gestured for me to follow. We drove in silence. The only sound was the steady hum of the engine and the occasional flick of the turn signal. Streetlights cast fleeting shadows across his face, making it impossible to read his expression. I wanted to ask where we were going, but something in his demeanor kept me quiet. After about 20 minutes, we turned onto a narrow road I didn't recognize. The houses here were spaced far apart, their windows glowing softly in the darkness. Finally, he pulled into the driveway of a small 2-story house I had never seen before. "Where are we?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "You'll see," he replied, already stepping out of the car. The night air was cool, carrying the faint scent of wet earth. The house in front of us had a warm porch light glowing, but the rest of it was swallowed in shadows. I followed him up the steps, my heels clicking against the wood, and before I could knock, he pushed the door open as if he had been expected. Inside, the place was neat, almost too neat, like a hotel room no one had touched yet. A faint hum from somewhere deeper in the house filled the silence. Daniel reached into his jacket and pulled out the $100 bill again, handing it to me. "This is for tonight," he said. His eyes met mine for just a moment, then flicked away. Before I could ask anything, he pulled out his phone and walked a few steps away, speaking in a low voice to someone on the other end. His tone was calm, almost careful. I caught fragments. "Yes, we're here and she's ready." The hair on the back of my neck stood up. I wasn't sure if I was nervous or scared. Then came a soft knock at the front door. Daniel ended his call, walked to the door and opened it. A figure stepped inside. Someone I didn't recognize. I looked at the stranger, then at Daniel. My pulse quickened. And without a word, Daniel walked out, leaving me alone. Section 3. The temptation. The stranger closed the door behind them with a slow, deliberate motion. For a moment they just stood there, studying me with an expression I couldn't read. They were well dressed, a tailored jacket, neat hair, and a faint trace of cologne that hung in the air between us. They smiled, not the kind of smile you give to strangers in passing, but one that felt familiar. "I'm Alex," they said softly, as if we were in on some secret together. I hesitated before replying. Well, I guess you already know who I am." Alex chuckled, walking past me and setting a small bag on the table. They moved like they belonged here, like this was their home and I was the guest. "Daniel said you'd be curious," they said, pulling out a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. I sat down slowly on the edge of the couch, watching them pour the deep red liquid. My mind was racing, searching for some logical explanation. Was this a test? A game? Some twisted arrangement between them? Alex handed me a glass. "You don't have to drink if you don't want to. But it might help you relax." I took it, my fingers brushing against theirs, a touch that lingered half a second longer than necessary. The conversation started innocently enough. They asked about my work, my hobbies, the city. But as the minutes passed, their questions became more personal. "Do you trust Daniel? Have you ever thought about other possibilities?" Every word felt loaded, each glance carrying something unspoken. The room seemed warmer now, my heart beating faster. At one point, Alex leaned forward, resting an elbow on their knee. "He told me you agreed to spend the night doing exactly what he asked. That means you're open to new experiences." The way they said it made my breath catch. I looked away, my mind flashing through images of Daniel, of our life together, of the promise I had made less than 24 hours ago. "Why am I here?" finally asked. Alex didn't answer right away. Instead, they took my glass, set it down and sat beside me. "Because Daniel wanted you to see something. Feel something. Maybe something you've been missing." There was a pause, a dangerous electric silence. I could feel the heat of their presence, the closeness. Part of me screamed to get up and walk out the door. But another part, the part one wasn't proud of, stayed still, frozen in place. When Alex's hand brushed against mine again, I didn't pull away. When they leaned in, I didn't stop them. And in that moment, I wasn't thinking about loyalty or love or consequences. I was thinking about how it felt to be wanted, in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. The line I thought I'd never cross blurred. And then disappeared. Section 4. The aftermath. Morning light crept in through thin curtains, pale and unforgiving. I sat at the edge of the couch, my shoes on but my mind miles away. The wine glass from last night still sat on the table, a ring of red at the bottom like a stain that wouldn't wash out. Alex was gone. I didn't hear the door when they left, but the silence they left behind was deafening. I glanced out the window. Daniel's car was parked in the driveway. He was leaning against it, hands in his pockets, looking straight at the door as if he'd been waiting for me. My chest tightened. I stepped outside, the cool morning air hitting me like a reminder that the world was still turning, even if mine felt like it had shifted off its axis. "Sleep well?" he asked, his tone unreadable. I searched his face for anger, for hurt, for anything that would give me permission to feel the same. But he just stood there, calm. Almost too calm. What was that? My voice cracked. What did you make me do? He tilted his head slightly. I didn't make you do anything. I gave you a choice. And you made it. I shook my head. That wasn't fair. You set me up. Daniel shrugged. His eyes still locked on mine. I wanted to see if you'd do it. If you'd step over the line. And now we both know. The $100 bill was still in my purse. I pulled it out, shoved it toward him. Take it back. I don't want it back, he said quietly. It's not about the money. It's about the fact that you agreed. His words cut deeper than I expected. My chest felt heavy, my throat dry. I wanted to scream that it wasn't my fault, that he manipulated me, that this whole thing was cruel. But the truth, the one I didn't want to say out loud, was that a part of me did choose it. The drive home was silent. The world outside the car looked normal. Kids on bikes, shopkeepers opening doors, a jogger crossing the street. But inside everything had shifted. Back at the apartment, Daniel didn't say much. He dropped his keys on the counter and went straight to the bedroom. I stayed in the living room, staring at the faint imprint where the $100 bill had rested on the coffee table 2 nights ago. I thought about trust, about temptation, about the thin line between love and betrayal. I thought about how quickly you can go from certain to lost. And as I sat there, I realized something. Whether I stayed or left, we would never be the same again. Some lines, once crossed, can't be redrawn.